Hi! So, vlog number 2, and clearly this time I'm not crying. This is me, normal, like sitting at my desk at home. I just finished working, and I really wanted to make this vlog, and it's about something really simple, but at the same time, I think it's something that's actually probably one of the most difficult things for a lot of people to deal with and tame. That'll make sense in a second. I want to talk about this thing called the lizard brain. That's this guy Seth Godin's name for it. Other people have other names. Stephen Pressfield calls it the resistance. Some people just identify it as the amygdala, like an actual physical part of our brain. The only thing that really matters is this is the part of your brain that is responsible for that little voice in the back of your head. Now, I feel like when I was back in my eating disorder or when I was cutting and depressed, there really was no difference at all between the voice in the back of my head and me. Like, I was so disconnected from my body, from how I felt. It was often really difficult for me to identify, like, what was wrong or, like, what was causing it, because I was totally associated with the lizard brain. Like, that's what I listened to. That's what drove my actions, my habits. It's, like, essentially the way I showed up in the world, like, my patterns of thinking, patterns of behavior. And so anyway, this lizard brain, if you will, the amygdala, it's this part of the brain that's like very primitive. It's served us as humans, as like a species, really well for a long time. And then we started like evolving, and we got into things like the 19th and 20th century, and we were really to the point where those basic primal like things, fear, right? Fear, something that like drove human action, fear of like not surviving, fear of like getting killed by whatever fucking animal was running behind you. That was a really, really big one. So it's this part of the brain that tends to tell us things that are usually derogatory or like self-deprecating or resistance. So like if you say you want something, so many people say, I want this, and then they don't have it. Or they say they're going to do something and they don't do it. We're so full of contradiction. So I'm like, well, why? Why can't we actually just like do what we say we're going to do, or get what we say we want? What's stopping us? And it's this thing, this lizard brain. And it's that voice that's telling you you're fat, you're ugly, your thighs are too big. It's that repetitive pattern of thinking that once you start, it's like you just get sucked down into. And so, oftentimes you might even find yourself like sitting in class and like the teacher's talking, and it doesn't matter where you are, what's going on around you, all that you can think about is like that voice in your head, and it's just yelling at you, or it's telling you horrible things, or sometimes it's super tricky and conniving and like that little bastard. It starts picking you apart, and it's clever, and sometimes it does it in a way where you don't even realize it's happening, and like it's like at first it's not derogatory, and it's just things like questions like, oh, so you want to go to school there, do you? And it's like, yeah, I want to go to school there. It's like, oh, so you think you're gonna get in? Yeah, well, I'm really good. Well, that girl over there did that. Did you do that? Oh no, fuck, I didn't do that. Like, maybe I'm not good enough. Oh, boom, maybe I'm not good enough. Now you're all spiraling down in this horrible train of thought that has you like feeling like you're not good enough. And you are good enough. And it's just like this self-sabotaging nonsense that we all do, but we don't have to do. And I guess what this blog is about is just the fact that this exists. I wrote something earlier today, and I don't know if it was like too like much writing or like for Tumblr or whatever, but it's got some good points. The truth is, though, that like just being aware of the fact that there's this thing that exists in your brain, this thing that causes you to think in certain ways, that it's like this, call it something like the lizard brain, this voice in the back of your head. Just being aware that it's there and that it's not you, like it's not who you are. You're a lot more than that. It's a little bit of you, it's a part of you, but it's not who you are. Like, who you are is something so much different. We can talk about that later. Like, that's your spirit, and that's your passions and your gifts, and like the way you choose to show up in the world defines that too. Anyway, for another day. I was gonna try to keep this under 5 minutes. So, point to take away. This thing that exists, this cyclical pattern of thinking, it's easy to identify because it's mean. It's not nice, and it usually is preventing you from doing something that probably would have been awesome, or expressing yourself in a way that like people would have really loved to see, or you would have felt really good doing. It's self-destructive, and it just fucking sucks. It's the you're fat. It's the it's the whatever. You can't turn that off overnight. Like, it takes time. It's a process to learn how to tame it. But one of the things that I found most helpful at the beginning of my journey was to see if I could try and approach it when it was happening, or like sometimes after it happened, because sometimes I just couldn't catch it while it was happening. Even that takes time. If you can try and just get curious, like be interested, not judgmental. Don't judge yourself. Fucking don't judge yourself. Sorry. I feel really strongly about that. It's like there's enough people out there that are going to hate on you. You need to be strong, like, against them. You better fucking not judge yourself anyway. So, distracted for a second. What were they talking about? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, point to take away. I went back and watched to see what I was talking about. Curiosity, no judgment. So don't judge yourself when you see that you're going into these like spiral patterns of horribleness. Just notice it. Like, that's all you need to do for now. For now. I mean, eventually you're going to have to take a further step. But for right now, just start noticing it and stop judging yourself when you do notice it. Don't be like, oh, I'm so horrible for thinking that. Like, you're not horrible. Like, that's what the voice in everybody's head tells them. Maybe not the exact horrible thing it's telling you, and maybe not to the same degree, because we're all different. But honestly, that's what's doing something like that, because everybody's little voice, everybody's lizard brain says horrible, non-productive, self-sabotaging, awful things. So don't judge yourself for it. That's not you, okay? Just start noticing. Get curious about it, kind of stand back and be like, what's happening right now? Oh, you're telling me that I'm fat. Interesting. Okay. Just try it. Science experiment. See what happens. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to make another vlog soon. It's nice to talk to you without tears and snot pouring down my face. Bye.